Does your financial advisor take the time to really listen to you? Is your financial strategy personalized to you and your family? Will your financial advisor be there as your life and financial situation change? Hi, I'm Jerry Mangona, your Edward Jones financial advisor. I live here in Corktown, just a few blocks from the Daily Detroit studios, and when we work together, we'll focus on what's important to you. We'll use an established process to create a personalized financial strategy backed by the advice, tools, and resources to help you reach your goals. And we'll partner together to help your strategy stay on track. Contact me toll-free today at 866-975-8655. Again, that's 866-975-8655. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hello, friends, and welcome to your Daily Detroit, sharing what to know and where to go in Southeast Michigan. It is a snowy and cold Friday, November 18th, 2022. It is freezing, and I am east of Woodward, and I am Jer Stays.
Well, Jer, in case you're wondering, I am west of Woodward. It is also freezing. It is the snow is falling, and I'm Devin O'Reilly.
Oh, winter has showed up, sir.
Yes, it has. I mean, appropriately, we're coming into Thanksgiving week. Let's say the season has abruptly changed on us, and so we are in the thick of. I hope people are ready for kind of the Christmas spirit, because I'm going to have to get there. I'm probably putting up decorations this weekend. It feels like Christmas is upon us, so I'm just going to embrace it.
Well, you know, I used Christmas music in an earlier episode of the podcast this week. I actually used Christmas music when we were talking about Noel night, because Noel night's almost here.
That's true. I mean, we are close to Noel night. We're close to, all the fun stuff. The tree will be lit probably by the time you're listening to this. Perhaps the tree will either be in the process or will be lit. So downtown will officially be open for Christmas. 'Tis the season, Jer. We're right there.
'Tis the season. Well, where have you been, sir?
Well, Jer, I mentioned in the last episode that I was on about my frustration with the lack of lunch options in downtown Detroit, particularly lunch options where you can also have a cold beverage with your lunch, as you might do in certain situations. I call it the power lunch, and there's not a lot of places to get your power lunch, but I came upon another one, or I should say I thought of another one that turned out to be a really great call. If you recall, I was at Anchor Bar last week. That treated me well. But Karl's Diner in the Siren Hotel, I think a lot of people forget about that.
Oh,
Karl's Diner is open 11 a.m. to like 12 p.m., I think. They'll do breakfast, lunch, dinner, full menu. It's a Kate Williams production, so it's really good food. It's such a retro. It's like stepping back in time, especially now because they have some decorations up. It's really like stepping back in time to the 50s and 60s. It's a lot of Detroit nostalgia and memorabilia on the walls, and they serve beer and cocktails all the livelong day. And then on the food side, I had what I think is one of the best, maybe the best Maurice Salad still in the city. I know Maurice Salad was a big thing at Hudson's, and that was, kind of where it originated. So Maurice Salad is sacred in Detroit. I don't know a lot of people that do it well anymore, but Karl did a fantastic job with my Maurice Salad.
Chef Kate Williams, if you don't know, and I mean, I think you know, Devin, she was over at Lady of the House in Corktown.
Right.
That was a big deal. And then I was going to mention this later, but the Detroit Historic Museum has a whole display for the holiday season on old Hudsons. So you could get your Maurice Salad and then go to the Historic Museum or vice versa. Like you could experience the history. It's pretty great.
I think you maybe go to the Historical Museum first, get really hungry, reading up on all that amazing history with Hudson's, and then you can really kind of satisfy your appetite with a nice Maurice Salad and wash it down with a cold beer.
Now, was that on like the second floor of the Siren?
It's right on the second floor of the Siren.
How cool.
Yeah. It's a quaint little hotel as it is. You got candy bar there as well. You've got Populous Coffee right on the first floor, and then you just walk up the stairs, and Karl's is just basically open. It's very much like a diner feel. It's it's never too crowded. If people haven't checked it out, I really strongly suggest you give Karl's a try if you're downtown during the day or at night.
I like the return of the second story restaurant. That's a big thing in some other cities. Like when I was in Chicago recently, a lot of the places were on the second story. This is a pretty cool thing. You've got this, and right around the corner is, Wright & Company, But the second floor restaurant's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, it's really cool, and it feels very cosmopolitan in there because you also have the people mover tracks coming right by the window. So if you're sitting close to the window, sometimes you get a little kind of buzz by of the people mover. So it feels very city-like.
Probably a better use as a diner than a apartment, huh?
Yes, for sure, Jer. So I had my power lunch. Where have you been, Jer?
So I went out to the east side and I checked out something that had popped up on my Instagram because, Devin, I'm a fan of bread. I am a sucker for bread. I love good bread and baked goods.
Yes, many of us are. I often yearn for bread and baked goods.
Well, this place is newer. It is Rouge Bakery. It just opened within the last few weeks. It's in what used to be Cornwall Bakery in Grosse Pointe Park over on Kercheval.
Okay.
And before that, it was Mueller's Market when I was a kid. So it was actually like a full-line little neighborhood grocery store. That existed for, I think, nearly 100 years. And then there was Cornwall. Now there's Le Rouge. It's actually run by the same people who do Bricks Pizza down the street.
Okay.
And let me tell you, what an amazing interior transformation. Not that Cornwall was bad. It wasn't. But this is a special place. They took the attention to detail. You walk in there, and it's just stunning end to end. And then on top of that, the food, which is, I think, the most important thing, great loaves of bread, amazing cookies. I just sampled a bunch of stuff. They've got coffee and cold brew and all those things. I think it's a great addition to that corner. And I'm always a sucker for really good bread. I think a lot of bakeries, like they get close, but they don't get to the top when it comes to that good old hunk of bread you can pull apart and all of that. And they nail it.
So you're scratching me where I itch with this, Jared, but I want to ask a little bit about the bread itself. Is it just you take the bread and you leave, or do they offer things that you can eat on site that incorporate the bread?
Depends on the day. So
Okay.
Saturdays, it's bread and baked goods and little things like that, right? But during the week, they have a number of main dishes. So they've got a Wagyu brisket sandwich. They've got a hangover sandwich. They've got a pesto chicken, a croque madame, and a monsieur. So it depends. For the most part, most days, as I said, I think it's Tuesday through Friday, they do the food. And then Saturday, it's like baked goods and coffee. This place is open from 8 to 3. So it's very much for your breakfast and lunch crowd.
Gotcha. Okay. Sounds delicious.
It was definitely delicious. And I think it was totally worth the trip. Even if you don't always go, you could do a little bit of an excursion, if you will, because there's that. And even, Yellow Light Donuts is just a few blocks away, just over the Detroit border. You could just do like a breakfast parade if you want to on the east side, which sounds amazing to me, actually. I think I'm going to have to do that.
A breakfast parade does sound nice, and I've done the excursion as a West Sider. I've done the excursion over to Grosse Pointe Park, and it's a great place to spend some time during the day. Like you said, you've got everything from baked goods, some great food. You've got Atwater Brewing. You've got some of these cool, rustic cabins, one of my favorite places, Red Crown. So you've got a nice little collection, a menagerie of places to go, eat, hang out. So I would definitely recommend, even as a West Sider, to do a little day trip over to the East Side and GP Park.
Next time you go, Devin, I have a recommendation for you.
Okay.
Because you are a recent dad, you need to go see Coriander's Children's Bookshop.
Okay.
It's like 2 stories tall. It has a great little courtyard. It is magical on the inside, if you've got kids or whatever. So next time you go over, check it out. It's literally like a 5-star place.
Nice. All right. I'm going to add it to my itinerary for my East Side excursion.
Well, Detroit has so many things that are ranked among the best in the country and the world. And we have another place to talk about that is in that ranking, sir.
We do, and I bet it's somewhere that most of our listeners would not probably think of.
No, right at Woodward and Grand Boulevard is Baobob Fair, and it gets the nod for a top new restaurant in America by Esquire magazine.
That is quite a distinction. I have not, and I feel shameful for saying this, but I have not had the pleasure of having their food yet. I know they have a fantastic kind of backstory on how they came to found this, but I admit I need to go try it.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the food in a second because I have tried it. But if you don't know, founders Mamba Hamisi and Nadia Nijimberi are from Burundi. They are refugees. They lived at Freedom House for a while. And it is so cool to see the hustle they had. I remember years ago, now they won the Hatch Detroit contest. I remember that. And then they would do pop-ups where they would sell like 100 dishes in a half hour. They have a touch that is amazing. And so in celebration of this, went and picked up a couple of dishes to check out because I thought, why not? Like let's get the freshest of the freshest. And one of the things I want to mention that I like about this, it has a very focused menu. Like I think that's one of the keys to its success.
Yeah, don't try and do too many things. So what do they do so well, Jer?
So for me, I had the nyumbani, which is tender beef slow simmered in ripened tomato sauce with fried plantains, peanut stewed spinach, and your choice of spiced rice or coconut rice. And how amazing it was. It was just melty but so tasty. So many like different depths of flavors because East African food is going to be a little bit different of a palate than what you're used to, but it's totally worth it. And then the big shout out for me, although I really did enjoy the nyumbani, is the ntore. Let me tell you why. Number one, it is vegan. And here is the thing. I really enjoy good vegan food. This left me wanting for nothing. And I was listening to an interview that they did with some friends of the show over at IT and the D like years ago. Engineer Randy sent it over to me. One of the things that it made me realize was, over there, you have a pound of beef, and that is a rarity in Eastern Africa. Everything's not going to be meat forward. There's going to be a lot of effort put towards vegetable forward dishes. And this eggplant stew, just, oh man, like it was like, yellow beans and just so many depths of flavor that I just loved. And I left completely satisfied with this dish. And it's vegan. And I'm somebody who, like, I like me a good burger, and I felt satisfied with it, which I think is a very high praise for a vegan dish.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like I've been missing out. So I'm going to have to get on this ASAP. We're going to have to try it out. Maybe we'll go together, Jer. Like you said, it's right up there on Woodward Avenue. You could take the Q line if you're a little bit farther away, like if you're in Midtown or if you're even in downtown. Yeah, you got to go check it out. Looks like there's some delicious, delicious dishes. They have everything, like you said, from meat forward to a lot of vegan, vegetarian stuff, and they even have a little dessert.
Yeah. Now, one more thing I want to add, because all of this was just over $40, because you're going to get out of there for less than $40 for 2 meals if you don't get something to drink. But I got something to drink, non-alcoholic, but I think worthy of mention.
Okay.
They do something called G, which is a passion fruit drink. And this is basically passion fruit and cane sugar. And it is tasty. It's tart. It's got kind of a zing to it. You look at the bottle, it's beautiful. You'd swear they sold this at Whole Foods. And although it's like $7 for the bottle, which is a little pricey in my mind, for passion juice, it's really not, because it's kind of like rarer to do. Like if you look around, like pure passion juice is kind of expensive, but it is worth the extra thing. Like if you want to do like the non-alcoholic, like give yourself a little bit of extra pick-me-up, this passion fruit, pretty darn tasty.
Yeah, I feel like if you're going to go with the meal, you might as well wash it down with something that's of the area as well, and really will probably bring out the flavors of the dishes really well. So good call, Jer. Well, Jer, as you know, I love to see a rehabbed or a reinvigorated space in Detroit that was something else or that didn't work out that is now getting new life. I love breathing new life into spaces. And one of the largest spaces of that nature that I walk by pretty often over on Broadway is the old Punchbowl Social. I think we all remember that, right?
We do. And it was much talked about when they met their demise.
It was a big deal when they opened. It was also a big deal when they met their demise. My diagnosis, hindsight's 2020, but I feel like it was the wrong location and it was a little bit of the wrong concept for where it was. It just couldn't pull it off. Maybe the wrong timing. It was still,
a little bit of wrong execution too. And I want to get into that after you talk about who's involved with this thing.
Yeah. I mean, overall, wrong execution. I totally agree with you. And maybe a little bit early, I think it was 6 or so years ago that it opened. Having said that, it had closed down. It had been, I don't want to say eyesore, but when you have something that large in the prime downtown area, you notice there's nothing in it. And there's been some kind of like a Lions tailgate pop-up thing. That was never long for this world. But we've got news, late breaking this week, that it is going to get new life as a comedy club by a famous comedian, Mike Epps, who is not actually from Detroit, but he performed in Detroit countless times. So this is something I am excited about.
Yeah, 23,000 square feet. That's an insane amount of retail space in downtown Detroit. There's not that much stuff that is that big. And I think it's actually, if I remember correctly from my last visit, it's partially a couple of levels. It's a huge place. And for it to be a comedy place and a music venue run by someone like Mike Epps or invested by is really amazing. And then you know who his other partner is on this?
Who's that?
Horace Sheffield III.
Oh, okay. Well,
The dad of our city council president, Mary Sheffield, because Detroit is the biggest small town you'll ever meet.
absolutely.
So this leads to where I think there could be a really great execution difference for this space than Punchbowl, because Punchbowl constantly was dogged by allegations and incidents and everything else that were not as welcoming as I think a lot of places are expected to be in downtown Detroit.
Right. Not as an inclusive of a space. And let's point out also just the proximity, where that's located on Broadway. It's a mixing pot of a lot of different cultures, races, Jared, right? I mean, you have kind of all the Parker's Alley stuff. So you have a lot of like young millennials who are coming from the suburbs. And then you also have a lot of people, it's near the Harmony Park area, near Greektown, close to that intersection in Gratiot. So you have a lot of Detroiters hanging out there as well. And so it's always been kind of a very mixed area, which is great. But Punchbowl did not do well with that.
No, there were multiple things. I'm not going to rehash history and get into whatever, but you can go find it if you want to go find it. And it being a Black-owned establishment, especially, of course, Mike Epps brings the star power, but someone like Sheffield, who has been in the community for years, that is going to change the vibe of that place in a way that is, I think, important to talk about in downtown Detroit, and I'm glad to see it.
This is interesting on multiple levels, but another one that we can talk about is what you're alluding to, in that we've talked a lot on this show about how there's valid criticism and conversations about, there are white spaces in downtown and there are Black spaces in downtown. And white people hang out at certain restaurants and bars and places, and Black people hang out at certain bars and restaurants and places. There's not many places where they mix together. I think this has clearly the potential to be that kind of diverse, welcoming space where we can all bond over comedy and food and drinks, which they'll undoubtedly have. So I think this has a chance to be one of the most kind of diverse spaces, venues in downtown, which would be really cool to see.
So according to a release, this will be the flagship location for something called the One Mic brand. So One Mic Detroit, I think, is what we're going to have here. Inside, there will be a restaurant called Savor 42. There will be a lounge, and then there will be a wine and spirit brand kind of featured called Epic Spirits, which is owned by Mike Epps. And it's going to, of course, have 2 P's on it for epic. So I feel like it all kind of ties together there.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Jared, did you see anything in the article about when it's expected to be open?
Well, actually, I didn't see anything in the article, but I literally just clicked to the website right now, onemicomedy.com. They have a countdown.
Oh.
They put one up just now. 140 days, 13 hours, and 50 minutes. So by the time you hear this, it's going to be about 140, 139 days. So
wow.
Yeah,
okay,
it's
that's
coming.
not bad.
That's not bad at all.
That's like 4 months away. Should be awesome. Have it in for the spring and especially the summer.
Now, before we wrap all of this up, I want to talk about yet another way Detroit has made a top travel list, this time at the 10 spot of 50 around the world by a page called Travel Lemming. They, of course, say that Detroit is a great place to visit and highlight some of the things that we all know, like Eastern Market and the Motown Museum and the African American History Museum and the Henry Ford Museum and the DIA and Greektown and all that stuff. And it's great. And I love seeing us up there. But I think we need to give a few more suggestions that aren't in the usual list, because I'm glad to see it. And I agree, May to October is a great time to visit the city. But I think that there's a little bit more we could add to what they call one of the country's best kept secrets.
Well, listen, I have not heard of Travel Lemming before, but I will appreciate anybody who wants to write fondly about Detroit and name it as a travel destination. So kudos, Travel Lemming, whoever you are, first of all.
Hopefully they don't fall off into the sea.
Exactly. There was a joke to be made, Jared, and I'm glad you made it. No, these are all good suggestions. Certainly plenty of these places. You should check them all out. But, people who have lived here for many, many years, our lifetimes, in fact, we try to dig a little bit deeper. And so, we could expound on this list endlessly. But what I would offer is I think the Fisher Building is just a really cool space to go to, and just the surrounding area, because it's so culturally significant. You can learn about the history of the Fisher brothers. You can go into that absolute just cathedral. I mean, just a living kind of monument, almost an art piece inside the Fisher Building. You can see all the stuff there, the stores. Then you've got the former GM headquarters right across the street. At one time, the largest office building, I think, outside of New York or maybe in the world at one point. You've got, old TV studios over there. It's a very cool area up on the boulevard. So if you're going to come to Detroit, I think that gives you a flavor for kind of what we were and where we are. So that would be my pick.
Interesting. Yeah. For me, I would add, because of easy access to the queue line. And look, there are plenty of places around the city I would recommend. However, when I travel, I'm not really somebody who drives around a ton. Like if I fly in or whatever, I understand that you might be kind of tied to Woodward. And so I'm going to recommend something off of the queue line, which is you should come in and do some shopping, because there is so much available right there at that Cass and Canfield shopping district, whether you've got Third Man Records or you've got Source Booksellers or Monger's Provisions or City Bird. And there's so many options along there. Bon. You can just grab yourself a little chocolate to go. I mean, I did that the other day. Completely honest, it was a Bourbon bonbon. I just had to.
I've had that, Jared. It's really good. Of
yeah,
course,
it's really good, really good. And so that's one. And then you can go up the queue line a little bit more. Check out for architecture, especially if you're traveling during a colder time. Check out the Detroit Public Library's main branch, because that's beautiful.
It is. Yeah. I mean, again, the architecture in Detroit is incredible. Sometimes I think we take it for granted, but that would definitely be something to check out. I would also offer, Jared, that especially since this is our Friday show, which we have a little fun with, you got to hit some cocktail bars, right?
I mean, if drinking's your thing, yes.
You got to. Heck, even if it's not, all these places make really good mocktails as well.
They do.
And so, for instance, Monarch Club for me would be definitely a choice.
Good choice.
You get the view. You could drink water there and have an amazing view. So you got to go to the Monarch Club. I think Bad Luck Bar is still one of the best in terms of the ambiance, the feeling of being in a cool space. So definitely check out Bad Luck Bar. And then, get your old school on. Go down to the London Chop House and grab a drink there. Yeah, really. They do a really good Manhattan, a really good classic martini. If you're getting a classic cocktail, Chop House does a really good job. And again, it's drinking with that ambiance. Something tastes different about your martini when it feels like you're in the middle of a Mad Men set at the Chop House. There's just something very cool about that and very kind of old Detroit, and that speaks to me. So that would be my other pick.
They have a lot of amazing artifacts at the Chop House.
They do. It's almost like a mini Detroit historical museum.
I have to laugh, though, because one of your picks has all the views and the other two literally have no windows.
Exactly. That's the juxtaposition, Jared. Views at some point, but then sometimes you just want a dark bar with great ambiance.
Well, Devin O'Reilly, are you going to the football game this weekend? Did you know there's a football game this weekend?
I was going to say, Jared, I thought the Lions are playing away this weekend, but I'm seeing now that it looks like we're taking in some football refugees, as it were.
Yeah, the Buffalo Bills and the Cleveland Browns will be playing because I guess they can't handle the snow.
Yeah, I mean, the reports seem insane. I mean, 4 to 6 feet of snow is what they're calling for right now as we talk. I don't know if that'll change at all. But even, Buffalo has been known for some crazy snow football games over the years, but this would be almost insurmountable for them to try and play in this. So I guess Ford Field is going to provide a home for the Cleveland Browns and Buffalo Bills, which is interesting. I don't know how I feel about that, but hey, I guess we're glad to help.
But you know what? It's something to go do if you want to.
Yeah, exactly. When can you go to an away NFL game in your own city? That's kind of wild.
Even funnier to me is that the Bills are going to be playing here on Thursday for the Thanksgiving match.
Yeah, you would think they would just stick around, right, for the whole week.
I read that they're going to actually try to fly back, which to me, I'm not an expert in the ins and outs of NFL prep or whatever, but I feel like especially since the game's on Thursday, they should just stay here.
I would say just hang out. And you know what, Jer? We've just given them a multitude of things to do while they're here for the next 6 or 7 days. So, I think, nothing could be better.
Stay here, enjoy the town, and be very, very slow on Thursday.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll look for Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen to be at the Chop House and at the Monarch Club. So who knows?
Thank you to our team behind the scenes, Luciano, the Link Machine Marcone, Cheyenne, no ums, no Serini, Fletcher Sharp with the sharp points on sports, Ravishing Randy Walker, And of course, to all our supporters on Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee, crucial and appreciated. Feedback, as always, is welcome at dailydetroit@gmail.com. With that, I'm Jer Stays.
I'm Devin O'Reilly, and you're going to have to give me a cool nickname next time, Jer.
Cool nicknames, dailydetroit@gmail.com for Mr. Devin O'Reilly. Thank you so much for listening. Remember that you are somebody, and we'll see you around Detroit. We'll talk on Monday.